Do you guys have any friends who already think they know what you do, but they really have no idea what you do? So this would then maybe paint a better picture. Maybe someone might not want to come to you because they think, I don't want my neck adjusted, because that's what they believe chiropractic is. So this demystifies maybe what you might do for that type of case.
You're listening to the Restoring Human Movement podcast, where movement experts discuss the latest evidence-based practices to help you and your clients move with mastery. And now, your host, Dr. Sebastian Gonzalez.
Hey guys, it's Dr. Sebastian Gonzalez again on the mic for the Restoring Human Movement podcast. Today is a recorded one that I actually did in a presentation at the local chiropractic school in Whittier, California. It's called Southern California University of Health Sciences. If you're a clinician, you're going to get something from this because the topic was based upon YouTube, how to use YouTube to start a practice. Basically, it's a story how I went through and used things like YouTube to duplicate myself as well as create a practice. My practice is mainly a cash practice. There is some insurance involved. But I've found over the years that when I've created these videos, there's about 2 people that came in this week only because they saw a YouTube video. And some of these ones are fairly old, some of the ones are newer. But overall, I've had people ask me, I've had some interns ask me, what is something that I would want to do? What is something that they should be doing as they're starting to get out of school? And I think doing YouTube videos is a great thing. And you can obviously use YouTube videos from many different platforms. They're just different sizes. But as I go through this presentation, you're going to learn how I started my practice with that in mind as a major player, as well as some of the recommendations I have for young clinicians as they start to build their presence and demonstrate what they know to help out patients. Now, if you're a patient or a lay public, you might not get much from this. I personally think, though, that you might get something from it. If you're interested in overall with like just business development, probably some of you have known that I owned a coffee business a couple of years ago. Actually, sorry, a year ago. We were for a couple of years, but we since closed down. And what I really realized from that was that the problem with any business of getting clients is it's not the product. It's the way you are selling the product, and marketing is marketing. Sales are sales. And no matter how much we consider sales and marketing as dirty words in our profession, if our goal is to get the person to the intended goal that they came in for, if they go to someone else who might not be able to supply that type of care, or they go home and rest it forever and they don't get to the goal that they wanted, we really did them a huge disservice. So if you're a lay public just interested in just overall business talk, you might get something from this. If you like hearing stories that I tell a lot of stories from this as well. There are a couple sections in here that I actually cut a little bit because as I started recording, I tend to get amped up on some of these things, and I think I was being a little inconsiderate to some people that were not in the audience. So just to make sure that I don't want to repeat mistakes that I think I might have said, I just cut them out from there. So if you hear some changes in there that seem like they don't go, that's the reason why. So we'll get on to that in 1 second. Let me tell you a little bit of a funny story that I had recently. Now, a story from up this year was that I was going boating with a couple friends, and it seems like a lot of my stories are actually boating related, but we were in the car, and I forget how it actually came up, but someone said, well, what is a nickname? And I said, well, people typically call me sir. And they said, no, you're full of shit. Like, people don't call you sir. I'm like, no, people really do call me sir. And they're like, who calls you sir? And I said, well, my parents do. They're like, no, your parents don't call you sir. I said, yeah, they do. They call me sir. So it was around like 6 a.m. I know my mom was awake, so I dialed her real quick, and we put her on speakerphone. I said, hey, what's your nickname for me? And she said, sir. And I said, look, see, sir. I want you all to know that you can call me sir. And then she started to elaborate, as my mom does. She just she tells more stories in detail than probably what I would want to hear, at least in this situation. So she goes on to tell them the reason behind sir was actually because they called me Sir Crab, because I guess I was a grouchy kid. And I used to kick the door enough in the camper and fall asleep by the door while kicking the door. So anyways, people can call me sir. And there is the background story of Sir. And Mom, if you're listening, you gave them some fuel for the fire on that trip. So, okay, everyone, we're going to go into the recorded version of that presentation that I had. This is an explicit one, by the way. I tend to get amped up, and I do not tend to filter cussing. It's just me. Sorry. Apologies ahead of time. Here we go. Hey, guys. I'm Sebastian. Thanks for coming. Does anyone not know me? Does anyone know me? Okay, cool. So I practice in Huntington Beach. I'll be talking to you guys mainly about YouTube practice today, but if you have any questions about, I'll go over here just so I can see all of you. If you have any questions about just practice management stuff, I've managed my own practice ever since I got out of school. I didn't actually work for anybody. I just rented a room, and so I've been making a living like that since. So I have a lot of experience with it. So if you want to raise your hand at any point, just go ahead and stop me. But this in particular today is going to be about how to kind of use YouTube as a way to build your practice. And I'll go through the story of first why I started doing it, what itch I was trying to scratch with it, and why I continue to do it. Whether it be for you or not is a whole different story. First thing with YouTube and overall just marketing yourself is that you have to realize that we're different. All of us are different, and someone's going to resonate really well with me because I like to drink coffee on top of Angel's Landing, or whatever it might be, or I like cooking steak, or I like drinking beer. These are all different things that draw people to you. So when you create these videos, they're really being drawn to not only what the video can do for them, but also to the way you say it and who you are and if they like you or not. And it's kind of like this whole thing with like getting patients is kind of like dating, really. Like there's a lot of great people out there, but they're not great ones for you. Okay? So that'd be the first thing with when you're making videos, you have to reveal things about yourself. Like I like boating, I like podcasting, I like solving problems, I like content creation. It's just my thing. I like drawing. So typically if I have a problem where I'm trying to explain something to a patient and I haven't found anything out there that is similar to it, then I'll draw it, and that's just a skill set that I have. Now, in regards to content creation or YouTube videos, you might be thinking, and the last time I did this presentation, I had one raise their hand and say, how come you want or don't want to do YouTube videos? And one guy raised his hand and says that everything that I think I would talk about has already been done. And the first thing is they would do it in a different way. They'd say it in a different way. But the next thing is, too, that it might not be in the exact way that maybe your patients would understand it versus a clinician. They're different people you're speaking with. So we're going to go a little bit over target markets today and who your patients actually are. Does anyone get tummy time pictures from their friends with babies? I hate this shit. So I send them out preemptively for all the people that have babies coming. I say, I'm going to send you so many of these stupid pictures of me laying face down. Don't mean to send me any tummy time pictures. So the way I started my practice was I started renting a room from my PPR. Do you guys still call them PPRs? Yeah. Postceptors. So I rented a room. He charged me about $1,000. It was too much. So if anyone's charging you $1,000, I'd knock them down a little bit. I had about $135,000 in debt. I didn't take out any business loans other than the fact that my last year at school here, I maxed out the loans that I could take. So what is that, like $21,000 now in a term, or 14 or whatever it was? Anyways, I put it in a little bank account there and I didn't spend it just in case I needed it, because that's probably going to be the easiest loan you're going to get. So, but I wasn't spending that much monthly anyways. So I didn't have any staff for 4 years. So we were talking earlier about how do you manage not having a staff and still streamlining a process. So videos were one way I was able to do that, because if I'm teaching corrective exercise, yeah, the magic's in the cueing and how they do it, but realistically, they're going to come in and they're going to not even know what the hell they're supposed to be doing anymore. So you have to take them through the broad movements first. And also, too, I kind of like to see there's a little bit of accountability with it. I only lost money 3 months, so you can use the same style and hopefully do the same. Marketing this way costs you basically nothing. So I have this little army of videos which basically keeps churning money and drawing patients in monthly. I go face-to-face when possible, but I was just talking to someone on the way in, and they spent thousands of dollars marketing and taking MDs to dinner and trying to build that relationship. So you could do that if you want to, but I can't tell you how many times I've been into MD offices where like the receptionist will tell you, if in order to talk to the doc, well, you got to buy us all lunch, right? So if you guys want to do that, you can, but I'll go face to face with any coach any day of the week more so than an MD and ortho. That's just me personally. I do because I feel like I speak to them like they're me. Anyways, like, so I come from an athletic background. We resonate on a lot of the same things. And you'll see in a lot of my videos, I try to teach it in the same mannerism too. Like, so I started doing YouTube because I didn't have any staff, and teaching people stuff was really a lot of busy work. How many of you have thought about doing, raise your hand if you thought about doing corrective exercise in your practice? Is anyone scared it's going to take too long? Okay. So first thing is if you're looking to establish a change in the person, say they squat and they offload aside, right? You can make that change by doing probably 2 exercises that take you less than 5 minutes. So I think the dosage and the picking is the first thing that's important, but when you send them home with that exercise, those exercises, again, they're going to forget. So then you're going to teach them all over again. I mitigate this a little bit with the first time is an hour and a half, the second time's an hour, and I tell them literally the second time you're coming in, it's going to cost you more. And they're like, why? And I said, because I'm going to ask you to show me every single thing we did today. And if you can't show me, I'm going to do the exact same thing. Here's some tools you can do to help you out with this process so we can get to more advanced things. So it helps them with really getting accountable with their improvement. Common patient questions that I get. What is piriformis syndrome, right? So how many times are you going to have this conversation again? So maybe you read an article about it, maybe you do a YouTube video about it. It demystifies care. Do you guys have any friends who already think they know what you do, but they really have no idea what you do? So this would then maybe paint a better picture. Maybe someone might not want to come to you because they think, I don't want my neck adjusted, because that's what they believe chiropractic is. So this demystifies maybe what you might do for that type of case. I already said accountability, and I personally have a passion to, I got a lot of seminars where people tend to bash YouTube people and content creators because they think it's just a bunch of noise and bullshit. And my thought is that we can drown those ones out. And so my passion is to make YouTube and podcasts and all this stuff better. Like, there's no reason to bitch and complain about it. Let's just make it better. So I think if we do that, and that's why I create these videos, is because I think we can make it better. Repurposing, this is basically a short flow process that I do with patients with flexion intolerant back pain. All of the highlighted things, such as learning to sit, rolling in bed, getting out of a chair, getting into a car seat, lifting objects, intermittent walking, end range loading, blah, blah, blah. These are all on here as videos, okay? So if any of these patients ask me, can you show me to sit again? Well, there's a 5-minute video on how to sit, right? How many times do they got to go through this and watch it before they're going to get really tired of hearing my voice? And I think if they have the ability to have these tools, they're going to get better a lot faster, personally. But, does anyone have any questions yet? No? Cool. Is YouTube really right for you? I have no idea. I tend to think the more people I get as a collective unit to make videos that are good stuff, the more we'll drown out the bad stuff. And also, too, one thing that I think we run into in our profession is that some of you might think that if I do a video and this guy does another video and this guy's video is better than mine, I'm not going to do well. And I don't think that's the case. Like, we only see, I think, as a population of healthcare, we only see like 20% of the US population. There's enough money to go around. So I would just start making videos and help each other out. In regards to the videos that I've produced, I'll just highlight just rough numbers that I've estimated over the years to have made off of just these YouTube videos. And by the way, these ones right here, so one's 1.4 million. This one's about 500,000. This was months ago. Honestly, I had no idea these ones were going to do well, and I'm actually kind of embarrassed partly of the content in them. Like, I would have done them differently. But the moral of the story of that is, like, you really don't know what videos are going to catch traction. So I could have been a perfectionist on this and maybe not put them out, but I always have the opportunity to revamp on them. This is my rough estimation. So these videos have been out for roughly 5 years. This is the 1.4 million one. On the low end, I can say, and these aren't my prices, by the way, but let's just say conservative chiropractic price, $75 per session, maybe see the person 8 times, maybe get 25 people. So over the course of those 5 years, I can honestly tell you I've gotten way more than 5 people per year from this one single video. I don't know how many people have told me that they have insertional tendonitis of the rectus femoris. But it's fine, you just take them to the process and you correct them. On the high end, $46,000, and I just doubled the people. Now, if you have 50 people who then refer one person and refer another person, which, again, these have been out for 5 years, I think it's fair to say I've made about $130,000 from this one single video that took me about 2 hours to make. Okay? And I always tend to say, you don't really know where your next referral is coming from, so just get out there and make something. And content creation is really the first. If you're thinking the money came from YouTube, there is some money that came from YouTube, and I put this up just to prove a point. See how there's a gradual decline? Don't try to make your money on YouTube or a social media platform because it's eventually going to go away. But about 3,000 has come from YouTube, but ever since they changed stuff, it doesn't happen quite as much anymore. In the beginning with content creation or videos, it's really hard. And if you guys want to see the progression of really bad, I think, of mine, they're still up, to better, then just look up on my site or on my YouTube channel, look up the earliest videos, and it's me in front of like a white wall right here, just getting like blasted with like these lights I found from Home Depot, and all you see is my eyebrows going like this, and it's just me for about 5 minutes talking about tendonitis. It was terrible, and it probably took me about like 6 hours to make and edit. It was really bad. But then it gets a lot easier, and I personally don't like public speaking, but I'm willing to do it, and I hope that I'm okay. But it's when you get to see yourself on camera, you really get to notice the things that you do well and the things that you don't do well. And I do a lot of ums. I do a lot of lip smack. But then you start to educate yourself about how the person and the patient start to see you as well. Because this is really what selling comes from. We were talking about earlier that, has anyone, raise your hand if you've ever taken a sales class or read a sales or marketing book? You read one? What did you read? What was it? The Power of One. Okay. Well, I heard this analogy recently is if you had a business major who wanted to become a chiropractor later, they could easily get patients in the door, but they wouldn't know what to do with them. If you flip-flop that and you have a chiropractor who doesn't know how to market, you know what to do, but you can't get a person in the door to prove it. So if you guys haven't gone through business, sales, marketing, it's all a dirty term, right? Like I hate talking about it. I hate asking people for money, but you have to get used to it, because if you don't, then you're not going to make any money. You're not going to help anybody. But if you have questions about what to read and start with, I can refer you some if you want.
Do you have something that you can say that's a good starting point?
I think Grant Cardone 10X is a nice gateway drug.
Grant Cardone
10X.
10X.
Yeah, that's a good starting point. I think he was a car salesman, and I did the audio version because he's like a Louisiana boy, and he's interesting to hear speaking on his own thing. But he's just passionate about selling shit. And my thought is if you can sell crap, you can sell good stuff too. So I don't think he sells crap, but he's really passionate about selling stuff. So that's a good start. I personally, when I started doing YouTube stuff, I was really freaked out about people taking the stuff and then doing it wrong and saying I made them worse. So I put up disclaimers. Okay, so these are all little barriers I've had. Other professionals, are they going to bash me and say that I'm wrong? Or maybe I make a video and it's old news when new current research disproves that. Well, it's 5 years old, so I mean I can always choose to update it if I want to. I thought for probably about, I'd say I made videos from actually year one. And actually the first videos that you'll see, I don't have a degree on the end of my name, and it's because I was making them in school. Because there was exercises that I would show at my clinic, or at my PPR's clinic, that I thought, hey, let's just do these right now. So probably for about 3 years, I didn't make any. And it's because I said I didn't have any time. But if I consider like with the grassroots of my practice, like people still come in from those early videos. And so I made time because it's definitely a money generator. Can you guys get out some paper? This is the most important part probably for you. So here's what I want. You're going to have a few things to write. Number one is, who are you speaking to, or who is the person that you would ideally want to see in your office? Number two is, what are they going to be asking about? How are they going to ask for it? What are they going to search for online? And then what do you want to tell them that they didn't ask for? Okay, so you got about a couple minutes to do this, then we're going to pick one, and just everyone can kind of break it down. So who's the people? What are they asking about? What are they searching for? How do they ask for it? And what do you have to share about it that they are not asking about? Okay, first person done that feels like they want to share, raise their hand. So while you guys are finishing up, again, first person, just raise it up. This is the number one starting point really to building a practice. If you don't know who you're speaking to, and that goes for YouTube stuff or content writing or where you hang out or whatever, if you don't know who they are, what they wear, how old they are, what they like, then you're not going to know how to speak to them because they have different goals and they have different needs and so on. So you have to be really precise. And when I was in school, I had a friend who he had a goal to have basically service everybody. So I wanted to do athletic people. And he's like, why would you see athletic people when there's so many more non-athletic people? And I'm like, well, I think people who are not athletic still want to go to a place where people are being treated that are athletic. It's like, would you see Kobe's doctor? Sure. Yeah, you're not Kobe. You're not Kobe. But anyway, so that's my thought. You narrow the niche, you don't necessarily lose out on everybody. Okay, I need a volunteer. Thanks.
So kind of going along that, I put an active population, so that would include athletes, people in fitness, but also active in the sense of people that want to improve themselves.
Okay.
Someone that has kind of that population.
So let's use that then. Would you speak to a person who plays rugby the same as you would speak to a 13-year-old gymnast?
No.
Okay. So I would narrow that a little bit more. What age group would they be? Actually, who's your perfect person? You only get one choice.
Kind of adolescents.
Adolescent?
Like adolescents.
Oh, whoever.
So you mean like age group?
Yeah, age group, gender, sport. Let's start with that.
Say male adolescents.
Okay, good. So now the next question I have then is there money in that sport?
Not so much in the U.S.
Okay, so these are all considerations to take. There is, I found there was a realm that I worked with. It was college distance runners at Cal State. Usually they come from families that couldn't afford to send them anywhere else. They got there on like a partial scholarship, and they're they're at the college level, so it's like they're this kind of interim area where their parents don't want to pay because they feel the school should pay. So it's just a terrible market, unless I position it a different way. So let's just say we're going to go with those rugby players. What are they going to be looking for? What are they going to be searching?
How to improve their performance.
Okay, perform
Bigger, stronger.
bigger and stronger. Which one? Which one? And do you think they'll ask it that way?
They want to get big.
Okay, get big. How to get big for rugby, maybe. So have you? I don't know if has anyone tried this yet? They go into YouTube and they type up how to get big and they stop, and there's an autofill. Like you can get a bunch of shit that way, but if you do core exercises for and you stop, seniors, women, runners, it's so niche, and the reasons why they're on there is because these are the things that people are searching for. And if you put rugby in there, you're probably not going to get people who are looking for seniors. But similarly, if you're too general, you won't get the people that you want. Okay. The next really big thing on this is that when you look down on your paper, did you write down the things that they're actually going to look for and that they care about, or are you writing down the things that you care about? Because they're totally different. So I had a patient in recently that she had a headache. Headache was like really bad, she said, right? She kept talking about it. And she also had complete numbness in her arm. So which ones do you guys care about most? I care about this. I don't care about this much, but she cares about that, so I care about it. So we addressed that first to calm her, to let her do the thing that I needed to do for this. And the same thing goes with YouTube videos too. And you'll probably see if you look through some of mine, I might prompt them with some stuff that they are looking for. But then in the end, I'll probably give them something I think is better. Okay? I'd love to say it's a bait and switch, but I don't know. I'm giving them what they're looking for, because if you don't meet them where they're at in the terms that they're asking, they're not gonna look at it, and then it's just a big waste.
What do you mean? Like, can you give an example a little bit?
So let's just say labral tear stretches, shoulder labral tear stretches. Like I wouldn't suggest any of those, but someone's looking for them. So there's probably a big population out there that, like, most people, when they look for injuries, my observation is they're looking for a home correction. They look for stretches, exercises, or like mash work or something like that. And you might not want to suggest any of them, and certainly no one's looking for DNS for shoulder, right? So don't put that there. If you want to get other people like me who are looking for ways to get DNS tips, then I'll certainly find that. But you're only going to get like 200 views, and they're going to be people who aren't going to buy from you. So really, what's the point, right? So maybe in that, you put in some shoulder stretches that are not really shoulder stretches, but maybe active range of motion, or however you want to position it. Just a little different, that you know is not going to hurt them, but is similar to what they're asking for. Because a whole other thing with this, which I'll go into a little bit later with a slide, is that if the first 15 seconds, like YouTube is it's better than Instagram and stuff like that. Because Instagram, like when you look through, and you got to consider this consumer when they go through. What is your typical thing on Instagram? Yeah, you are bored as shit in class, and you scrolled, and if something is not interesting, you will not stop. YouTube, you had to actually take the steps of typing something in, and then you see a thumbnail, and if it's interesting enough, you'll watch it, but if it's not interesting, you leave immediately, right? So you got 15 seconds on them typically, but if you're showing them how to move like a baby for a labral tear stretch, they're going to leave, right? So start them with the stuff that they care about. We kind of went through this. Does anyone have questions on that? Because there's...
Is it better to have like longer videos at all then, or does it matter? Does it go by views? Does it go by length?
That's a good question. From what I know about just rough algorithm with YouTube, is that when you consider now, and this whole thing with understanding how to use a platform or how to get a patient to do what you need them to do, is seeing it through their eyes. And YouTube is looking to do what? They want you to stay on YouTube so they can sell a YouTube ad. So if yours is a high dropout video, or it's extremely short, when do the videos, there's entry ads, and there's ads around 2 minutes, right? So if you have a 30-second video, what is the potential in that, right? So the thing called I think it's retention time. So if I have a video that's 10 minutes and I hold you for 10%, I've held you for a minute. If you have a minute video that's 30 seconds and you hold 100%, who's keeping them on YouTube longer, right? So there's a window in there, and they say roughly 10 minutes is nice. But then if you think about like these people, like they're on here, they're not going to watch 10 minutes of you rolling around like a baby, right? You better segment that thing up and keep them. And sometimes too, I don't know if you've done this as well, when you're a YouTube watcher, you ever go through and you're like I know I'm looking how to move an Excel to a PDF, right? So this guy's got this blank screen like this, and you're like, that is not an Excel sheet. So you scroll on the bottom, right? So you're looking for the change of presentation, and then you stop there. So there's things like that, change of screen, change of position, and this is why if you look at like news article or newscasters, every 10 seconds shit moves, right? Commercials are so fast you can't even tell what Lady Gaga looks like. I still don't know what the fuck she looks like, right? So because we don't have a big attention span. Steps you should probably take is, this is my website. It's very clean. There is 250 articles behind this. So I can take you through, like, I can tag everything on there about what you can look for, or I just put a search function, okay? But the reason I'm putting this up is because the number one thing is you can't do shit unless you create content first. Because everyone's always wondering about like, oh, I don't know how to do, get people to my website, I don't know how to get a person in. Dude, make a video, make an article, something. Like I'm recording this right now. This is going to be a podcast. So I don't have to sit there for another hour and do a whole other podcast, right? Promoting the content. Perhaps after I record this, maybe I make it into a YouTube video. Maybe I make it into the podcast, and then also, by the way, who's listening to my podcast? Okay. Restoring Human Movement. Can you put it in your phone right now? Because I don't know how many interns that have come in and said, hey, what do you think about this, this, and this? I'm like, I covered that completely on this podcast with the person that created that. Just listen to it. It's going to be clinical pearls all over the case, or all over the place. But anyways, so the promotion of the content, now I can tell you guys that if you want access to this, you could easily go to that podcast, right? And then if I disagree with some of the stuff that I said, or I don't want to reveal it, I can revamp it, or I can say, hey, in this section right here, we're going to tangent off into something else if you guys want to learn about X, Y, and Z, right? So it doesn't have to be perfect. But the important considerations really are, this is something that changed over the recent years, is it's a concept of velocity. So say this podcast hits, and no one watches it or listens to it for 24 hours, it's basically dead to the world. So my job as a YouTube or content or podcast or article creator is to get as much traffic to that in the first 24 hours as I can. That you can do that many different ways. You can do face-to-face. You can do email stuff. If you don't have an email list, you should get one, because that's what will help out with this type of velocity. You can put it on Facebook. You can share it with your friends. Also, the rating system helps too. Does anyone comment on it? Is it interactive? Is it something useful for YouTube to have on in the first place? So velocity is really important. And in the beginning of the year, I probably all the way up until May, I was doing a video a day. So I got no problem making a video a day. And I just mass produce and make about 15 in a day. I'm done for half the month. But the problem was that they didn't catch traction. So I stopped because it wasn't purposeful. Now I'm going to be a little bit more deliberate with it. Anyone questions? Yes?
You might go into it a little bit, but is there the best time to post a podcast as far as time of day or day of the week?
I'm sure someone will tell you yeah, but whoever is telling you to post at like 5 o'clock when everyone gets off work, they told everyone else the same thing. So there's more competition. So it depends, I think. I prefer to have people, I prefer to do around 4 o'clock, because I know that within the US, that's 7 a.m. over there, and hopefully someone's awake, right? But also, too, other considerations with it. If people who are watching your videos, like I see your videos, you're saying something, but I don't have my volume on Instagram. I'm like, who's your target? And she's like, well, mothers, right? I'm like, what do? They lay up at night, not sleep, or they feed, and they don't want to wake everyone else up. So are they going to turn the volume on? Right? So she might need a subtitle, but be considerate about your demographics. Other considerations: were you compassionate or competent enough, right? And were you compelling enough in your message? Were you real? Were you entertaining? Because again, it is that. Here's that drop I talked about. So I don't know which video this is, honestly, but within 30 seconds, I lost 30% of my people, right? So usually you want a straight, flat line there.
Is YouTube any different when you're trying to create your audience at all? Like, do you have to do anything extra to make your video more searchable than others?
There's the thought that there's no point reinventing the wheel, and there is I think on PC, not Mac, you can go and say you're looking to do the same video as one of Kelly Starrett's videos. You can see what his titles are, right? So he already said the right thing to make it popular. Or there's the possibility he had a big old email list that just hammered this thing and made it popular. That's possible reality too. But you look at his copy, his wording, you look at the length, and then you can see behind the scenes of what he tagged it as well. So you can just reinvent it if you want, or you can sit there and think about what your population likes. You do either one. So thumbnails are consideration. Which one would everyone probably not pick, at least? Upper right? Right. So that was one that was pre-generated. Everyone else, I made something specifically for it, because you might get your video to pop up there, but no one's going to click it if it's actually, this one is honestly the better video of all the ones I made on this whole list. But I guarantee no one's going to watch it. Okay. Other considerations: camera type. You can use a phone, but just make sure that. Well, I have an iPhone 6.
I know the X is a little bit better. But you can do a lot on iPhones now. I have 3 different cameras that I use for mine typically. Lighting's important, extremely important. Audio is important. And I would look around these surroundings, like I have bottles in the back. I might want to get rid of that. Or perhaps my target audience is not so pristine and snobby that they don't mind that. So it makes me maybe more real. So I don't know. But you want to be mindful of what you put in there. Do you need a model, length of video we talked about? In editing time, you can be very quick if you need to be. The more mistakes you make, or the more crazy theatrically you want to make it, the harder it is. But I can edit a video probably in like 2 minutes. Other consideration is there's branded channel setup, which I haven't done on mine. Thumbnails we talked about, titles, tags, descriptions, scheduled releases. If you're making a lot of them, you just make sure that you put them on there, you schedule it, and it releases when you want it to. So you don't have to be on there every day. Eventually, though, when you have them up, you want to tinker a little bit and A/B test. This is one I did with Cody, and these are all, so I consider collaboration of other ways to drive your traffic, is you capture that other person's traffic source, because Cody is, I said, hey, you liked everything you said in that video yet, right? Yeah, cool, share it. Can you share this video for me, right? And so it helps scratch his itch too, where we're talking about the self-hip assessment. But these are a bunch of other people that I've collaborated with. So if you guys are confused at all about where to start, I put this up again because do what you're going to do anyways, and then just automate yourself. Okay? These are things I show every day. I don't mind going through and then picking away at the process and going clinically with it, but I'm not going to show them the basics of these things. They should be able to see it in a video, and I should have the competence to be able to cue it well enough. Something too, I wasn't as forceful with this last time. So I went to the R2P symposium last year, and I was having dinner with a couple people, and they were talking about, I forget the intern's name or the student's name, and they're like, oh, did you hear about Joe? And they're like, yeah, Joe's good. He's such a good doc. And they're like, yeah, Joe's working in a PI clinic because he has to pay his loans back. And they're like, oh, it's so sad. Like, Joe has a really good skill set to be a good doc, but he's never going to be able to accomplish that because he has to pay his loans back, right? So anyways, I got really drunk and went on a plane, and I typed out a bunch of shit. And I basically wrote down all the things that I wish I knew when I was in your guys' shoes, and I made it as comical as possible. I put it on a drip campaign, which is basically you put your email in on something, and this is all the stuff that if you guys try to email me on it later, I'm going to say it's on that email list. So just go on there. It's going to give you all this free stuff, but it'll go over how to start an ethical practice, how to get your rates down in your student loans. It'll go over how to feel comfortable charging more, being able to charge and things like that. It's a whole nother process you're not going to learn in school. So.
Did you charge a lot right out the gate?
No, I actually charged $100 for an eval, and I charged $60 for, basically in the beginning you have so much time. So I had a ton of time. So I spent as much time as I needed to, and it's $60. I don't want to reveal everyone's prices, but they're severely undercharging what they could. And people that you know, and I've told, I don't see him here, I tell some of the people that I encounter here, it's like, your first job should be going. We talked about this. You should go to your roommates or your family. Get them to not just let you work on them, but try to get them to pay something, because I guarantee they're paying their massage therapist, but they get paid more than you do, right? So it's because we're shitty salesmen, and also too, I feel like massage therapists. Why do you go to massage therapists? Because you got a tight muscle. What do? They do exactly what the person asked for. We try to do other shit, okay? And that's what I talked about in the beginning, is you got to give them partly what they want, unless they're open to change in the beginning. And this is, did anyone go to the symposium last year? So Kappa was talking about, give me 1 minute to change your mind. You have 1 minute, right? And if you can do that, great, then you got their attention a little longer. But they came in to get their back adjusted. If you don't do that, they might just leave and go to someone else who maybe is not as good as you, but they're sure is willing to adjust their back. But massage therapists, they don't flinch at this thing. They'll rub them down for an hour, and that's what they're asking for. Okay. This is where you can access that all that free content. And I was talking to my girlfriend last night, and I was like, I did such a bad job of saying this last time. And she's like, what would you want to say? I'm like, it is it's extremely sad if you guys do not do some type of marketing and business stuff now. Like, you will almost guaranteed fail the first couple years of business and want to go to become an associate doctor if you don't learn something now, okay? Because this is coming quick. So go on there. I tried to lay out the easiest stuff that you could at least get now. There's nothing, this is all free shit, by the way. I'm not selling you anything in there. But it's just, I feel like someone should have proposed that to me early in the beginning. And go to the podcast too. That's clinical stuff. That's the business stuff. Anyone have any questions?
Did you put that link back up?
Yeah. Students. I made it easy.
So would you say, because I know you mentioned like on Instagram how it's more kind of a quick, short attention span,
Right.
attention for some of the social media platforms. Could you still utilize that to help kind of share your YouTube videos or some of your marketing where it's like maybe a quick blur?
It's a good question. So I think there's a conspiracy right now. Do you ever notice that every single thing that you can post on has a different dimension? Like, YouTube is like this, like a normal human would watch TV, and all of a sudden now there's Instagram story videos. Who the hell would watch a TV screen like this? So when you get it in there, all of a sudden your video that's like this is now like that, okay? So if you're gonna do that, you need to make sure to be considerate of that when you first make it and crop it accordingly. You might get away with some things, you can shrink them down a little bit, but then I don't think that's optimal then for, if you're looking to target Instagram, just do it right. I'm not the best one to speak about that with, but did you see my Instagram posts are crap? You know, I mainly use it to promote to the podcast, that's it.
That's what I was thinking along the lines where it's like maybe it's like the thumbnail with the pictures that you showed, like Andy Gallup and Stephen Gill and all that, and, you know, tagging other professionals or people that you think would be interested for them to share on. Kind of like almost how I shared your podcast.
Yeah, and I noticed that like most of my followers on Instagram, they're not lay public, so a lot of those aren't going to be for them anyways. But yeah, so then you found me on there, right? So then you might tell somebody and so on. So there's the exponential growth like that. When I think about where the target market is that I need to address, so I technically have two, because I have professionals. If you look at my site, it's very clear: professionals and patients. Okay. I don't think any patients find me on Instagram, and I think there's people that develop way better content than I do on Instagram. I do much more complex things, except when I go into YouTube videos and make it a little bit more simple. But also, too, there's probably not, you guys probably aren't looking on there the best stretch for a labral tear. It's just a whole different population set. And if you're looking at, say, geriatrics, they might not use a computer at all, right? So just being mindful of who you're talking to when you're on there is a big part. Anyone else?
So how early did you start marketing and branding yourself when you were in school? And then how well do you think that translated to you starting your own business right out of school?
Other than making videos, I didn't do any marketing of any type. And I want to make sure to clarify that I'm talking about marketing. I'm not like door salesman type of stuff. It's just meeting people or networking. In regards to marketing myself, after school, I did two things originally. One of them was I went to BNI. You guys know what BNI is? You basically go eat breakfast with a bunch of other people who have their own businesses that are not you and can't be chiropractors or PTs. They have to be a non-affiliated thing. Honestly, I went there for like 6 months. I also joined a track club, and I got more patients out of those 10 people in the track club than I did at all of BNI. I did a rough estimation at the end. I think at the end of the year I made $5,000 off of both. So I hated going to BNI. I don't like eating croissants, you know, and that's what they liked. And they were just overall not my population, right? So to speak to them about the stuff that I wanted to really speak about, it wasn't really helpful either, you know. But just me personally, like, someone asked me the other day, like, why I focused on sports or at least sporting mindset people, is because I came from a sporting background, and I understand what it's like. That I remember there's a time where I played baseball. So they benched me for a couple games because I did not know how to bunt, and I still hate fucking bunting, right? But I know what's expected of me. Go in the cages and fucking bunt, right? It's not a mystery. Go bunt, right? So when you get in those populations who are not willing to do what is asked of them, I got no patience for that. And that's why I don't go with them. You know, someone else might be more nurturing than me. That's just not me. So I would go with the route of people that work well with you.
Are you part of any mastermind
I'm not actually. The people that I talk to the most about business right now are Ben Ramos and Philip Snell mainly. A lot of the other clinicians that I know and like, they're great clinicians, but they don't tend to. They're the ones at the seminars where they're like, all this noise and no, it's just wrong. Let's just do it this way, right? And when I got out of school, like the PPR that I was with, he was like 50 years old, 45, 50 years old, and he came from the mindset where he's like, just do good work. People will come in. Like he still to this day doesn't have. I think there's one Yelp review on him. I don't know how he survived, but he packs his doors. He sees like he does mainly ART, and he sees like 35 people a day. Like that's a lot, right? And I don't think it's like that anymore. You know, people don't go word of mouth like they used to as much, and bad news travels faster than good. So, side note, getting reviews. So if you do have patients that are willing to give a review, I have a friend who just got slaughtered by like he hired somebody to do some work, like SEO work or web work, and the person he's like, hey, I don't like your work. Let me just not do this anymore. So the guy's like, nope, don't think so. I'm just gonna slaughter you all over every social media and thing that there could possibly be. Rip off report, everything like that. So we started talking, and he's like, what do I do? And I'm like, well, you can't stop him. He's trying to get money out of you, basically, to blackmail you. I'm like, what you should have done a long time ago is you should bury it with some good reviews. So those are just other business parts. You got to preemptive strike those things because you're going to get bad reviews. I got 2 of them. Anything else? Because last time I was not prepared that people, they asked me, because I had a video camera, and they're like, how do I get access to this video? Or are you going to put that on YouTube? And I said, no. Another guy came up and he said, are you going to put it on YouTube? I said, no. Because I made it for a different reason. And then finally someone said, how can I see this? I didn't get it. I didn't write down the information. And I said, that's a good point. So I edited it. It's the first email you'll get. It's not this one, it's last one's. So if you want, it's the same presentation, just said a different way.
Do you have any blessings you could say that everybody right now should be jumping into, like whether if it is marketing, business, or even rehab related, that at least at this level people should be aware of?
Probably public speaking. Is anyone afraid of public speaking? Okay, you need to get over that, like real quick. And didn't we spoke about? So you have an exercise science background, and you can still speak to people right now about that stuff. So I would just take it as an opportunity to go to a golf club, go to a team, and say, I want to share this information about this in the pure manner that you're trying to get them to be better at whatever they're trying to accomplish. Right? You can't secure patients. You can meet people, but there is no monetary kickback on this thing. All you're getting is practice. So get used to doing it, because I remember, I think we talked about this. I did one for Pepsi, and I talked to all these Pepsi drivers about glenohumeral movement, and they're like, I don't know what the hell you're talking about. Like, they just didn't care. Like, I didn't speak in the way that I could be speaking to them more like this. But yeah, public speaking is probably going to be first. 10X is nice. That'll be a good rabbit hole that you guys should jump into. The clinical stuff, if you're in RTV, you're going to be fine. Just be willing to make mistakes with people, and if you don't feel comfortable working with them, send them out. You're not going to fix everybody. Good.
Great.
Thank you.
Everybody give it a round. And I have one more little.
Cool. I hope that was really entertaining for you guys. And as you can see, I get kind of fired up when I'm doing presentations like that. So I tend to be a little bit more guarded on podcasts, and I think if you heard my resolutions for my next 100 episodes, just to try to be a little bit more cavalier with things, because I think people tend to draw better information out of me when I'm in that setting versus the guarded, the thought ones when I'm translating. So if you're looking for the link that I was speaking about on there, where you can get all that free information, the business-based stuff, go on to p2sportscare.com/students is plural. So p2sportscare.com/students, and that's going to take you just directly to a button which is going to say put in your email. Now, as you heard me say in the presentation too, I wrote that thing when I had too many IPAs on a plane, and I was just flowing with it. And this is going to be useful for PTs, probably DCs, or definitely DCs, but probably PTs and students who are just coming out of school and starting their own business. And the sad thing is that a lot of really good clinicians out there are not going to succeed in business. Business is a whole different animal, and it's sad because they really have something to give back, and they have a lot of people they could help, but they don't market it well. So basically what happened on that plane was I figured out these 9 or 10 points, which I thought were things that I really should be sharing with those new clinicians if they'll have me speak to them. And this was the opportunity to speak to them. And if you're listening to this, you're probably one of them too, or at least you're maybe out the first, second year. So if you go onto that email thing, right now there's nothing to buy in there that I'm aware of. There might be. We've gone back and forth a couple times of how much to give away and how much to sell. But for the most part, there's probably about 4 or 5 sections currently of that manual that I wrote with the double IPAs on the plane. And I think they're killer. I dare to say that it is the best email series and content that I've ever written, because I don't have to be extremely technical about it. I was a little bit more liberal. And both the editors that I sent it to, they're like, oh, that was pretty good. I actually learned something from that. So if you're interested, go through and check that out. Again, I'm going to give away as much as I possibly can. I want to give away a lot. At some point, though, I will have to ask for some money for some content that is really, 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 really good. And I've been back and forth on this for a year or so now of wondering when that stopping point is. And maybe if you guys have some insight, you can tell me. I've said just because I asked you to come over for dinner doesn't mean I'm giving you my house. I'll give you food, I'll give you beer, I'll give you wine, but it doesn't mean I need to give you my house. So at some point there's going to be a line there, but just know that when I put that line there, it's because I need to feed myself. So I will apologize ahead of time if purchasing things offends anybody. But within there, I'm only going to produce the best possible stuff for that subject matter that I can possibly foresee. Now, if you guys are looking for the show notes on this, go to p2sportscare.com and just type in the number of the podcast this is. I actually don't know which ones it's going to be. I know it's going to be 115, 116, 114, around there. I'm just not sure yet, but I'm sure it's going to be playing on your player right there. So go through there, check that thing out. You're going to learn so much from it. If you learned a lot from this, you're going to learn a lot from that. Teaching young chiros how to do videos and podcasts and create content and repurpose that stuff and create a massive amount of pull on the internet where people do most of their searching anyways for their condition is a passion of mine. So I don't always get to talk about it a lot because I'm with patients a lot all day, but if you go through that, I know you won't be disappointed. So check it out, tell me what you think of it, and I'll talk to you guys next week.